Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at Indonesia's big simultaneous regional elections, the pilkada, set for November 27th.
That's right.
We've got the sources you shared, articles, notes, all focused on, well, potential issues and the systems meant to handle them.
Yep. Lots to cover there.
So the goal here is to really pull out the key insights for you, understand the potential problems, how they're addressed, and just make it clear without getting totally lost in the details.
Exactly. It's quite a layered system, so we want to highlight those core mechanisms, the sort of safety nets in place.
Okay, so maybe let's start with the timeline, get a feel for the dates.
Good idea. Things are already moving. Voter list updates, for instance, they run right up until November 16th.
Okay, November 16th. And candidates.
Candidate registration is pretty tight, just August 27th to the 29th.
Wow, short window. Then campaigning.
That kicks off September 25th, runs about 2 months, until November 23rd.
Leading right up to the main event.
Precisely. Voting and counting day itself is November 27th, and then the results start getting announced basically right away.
Got it. So this timeline helps frame when issues might pop up.
Yeah, exactly. Like a problem with the voter list sound late, say early November, could definitely become a point of dispute later on.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's say something does go wrong. What happens then? You mentioned a legal framework.
Right. It's not just one path. It depends on the type of issue. Administrative violations like procedural errors, that's Bawaslu's territory, the election supervisory body.
Bawaslu. Okay.
Then you've got ethical violations, maybe misconduct by election officials. That goes to a separate body, the DKPP.
DKPP for ethics.
And criminal acts like vote buying or intimidation. That's handled by a joint task force called Gakumdu, which can lead to actual court cases.
So different tracks for different problems. Seems organized.
It tries to be, yeah, matching the problem to the expertise.
What about disputes over the process itself? Not criminal maybe, but arguing about how the election was run.
Okay. Those process disputes, they start with Bawaslu too. But if parties aren't satisfied, it can escalate.
Escalate where?
To the state administrative courts, the PTTUN, and potentially all the way up to the Supreme Court, the MA.
Supreme Court. Okay. But what about the actual results? The vote counts.
That's the big one. Disputes over the final results, who actually won based on the numbers, that's exclusively the Constitutional Court, the MK.
The MK. So they're the final stop for vote tally challenges.
It's the first and final instance, actually. Their authority comes directly from the Constitution, Article 24C. It's pretty clear-cut now.
Now, was it not always?
Well, there was a bit of back and forth historically about jurisdiction over regional election results. But a significant ruling in 2022, let me check the number. MK Decision 85 PUU XX 2022, that really cemented the MK's role permanently. No need for a special court anymore.
Okay, so one clear destination for result disputes now. That simplifies things a bit.
Provides legal certainty, yeah, which is crucial after an election.
So what kind of thing gets brought to the MK? What are they looking at?
Typically, the formal object of the dispute is the KPUs. That's the General Elections Commission. Official decision on the vote recapitulation. Basically, the final official count that determines who won or lost.
Right. But I remember reading something interesting in the sources. You can't just challenge any result, can you? There are limits.
Exactly. There are specific thresholds. It's not a free-for-all. You can only file a case at the MK if the vote difference between you and the winner is within a certain percentage. And that percentage changes.
Changes based on what?
Based on the population of the province or the regency or city. It's quite specific.
Okay, give us an example, like for a governor race.
Sure. So for a gubernatorial election, if the province has, say, up to 2 million people, the vote difference needs to be 2% or less.
2%, okay.
But if it's a really populous province, over 12 million people, that threshold drops significantly down to just 0.5%.
Wow, 0.5%. So the bigger the population, the tighter the margin required to challenge.
Precisely. Same logic applies to mayor and regent elections, just with different population brackets. It starts at 2% for areas under 250,000 people, going down to that 0.5% for areas over 1 million.
That's fascinating. It really adds a layer of strategy, I guess, and filters out challenges where the margin is quite wide.
It does. It tries to focus the court's resources on races where potential irregularities could genuinely have swung the outcome.
So thinking about past elections, like 2020, which was mentioned in the sources, what kinds of issues actually did lead to the MK granting petitions? What worked?
Good question. Looking back at the 2020 MK decisions, several themes emerge. Voter list problems were definitely one.
Like what kind of problems?
Things like finding double voters or, significant discrepancies between the number of people registered and the number who actually showed up and signed in. Issues that cast doubt on the list's accuracy.
Okay, voter lists. What else?
Non-professionalism, let's call it, at the polling station level. KPPS teams.
The local polling staff.
Yeah. Procedural violations, maybe not following the counting rules correctly, sometimes even allegations of direct vote manipulation at that level.
That sounds serious. Undermines trust right at the source.
Absolutely. And another big one was ineligible candidates.
Ineligible how?
Various reasons. Maybe they hadn't completed the required 5-year break after a conviction, or they had other undeclared legal issues, sometimes even dual citizenship cropped up.
And there are checks for this.
Supposedly. There's a Supreme Court Circular number 3 of 2016 that requires candidates to get statements from courts about things like bankruptcy status, criminal history, even outstanding debts. And recent MK decisions this year, no matter 70 and 60, further clarified rules on candidate age calculation and party nomination thresholds.
So trying to tighten those eligibility requirements.
Right. So you see the pattern. Voter data integrity, polling station conduct, and candidate eligibility seem to be key areas the MK scrutinizes based on past successful challenges.
Okay, right. So to sort of wrap this part up for you listening, the 2024 pilkada has this structure, this timeline, and these different legal avenues. Bawazlu, DKPP, Gakumdu for various violations.
And then the MK specifically for those final result disputes operating under those population-based percentage thresholds we talked about.
And those past MK rulings from 2020 give us a pretty good idea of the hot-button issues, voter lists, polling station actions, candidate status, lessons learned, hopefully.
Definitely. It sets the stage.
Yeah.
Which leads to, I think, a key thought for you to consider.
Yeah.
We have these detailed mechanisms designed to ensure fairness, right? The thresholds, the different bodies.
Yeah. Seems quite thorough on paper.
But think about the balance. How does this framework, designed for fairness, also potentially open the door to legal challenges that might create delays or instability after the vote? And what does all this tell you about just how critical accurate data and really transparent procedures are in these final months leading up to November 27th? Something to mull over.